You respond to a cardiac arrest to find a generally healthy, historically, not so much currently, 65-year-old male pulsosynaptic. There are 6 or 8 of his family members around too. A first responder hands you a valid DNR, but the other first responders are performing CPR. What the fuck? When you ask about that, the patient's entire family agrees when his adult daughter says, "You have to save him. None of us know anything about that DNR thing, so it is a mistake. It has to be. Do everything. Save his life." Do you work the patient or do you pronounce the patient? I'm Angry Bill, and this is Pre-Hospital Wisdom. We understand that medicine is medicine, but pre-hospital providers have special skills, knowledge, and culture that other providers don't necessarily have. Let's raise the bar here a little bit. Ethical decision-making has been all worked out and described by philosophers and other folks who study such things for centuries. The branches of ethical frameworks are called normative ethical systems. There are 2 main divisions of ethical frameworks that I want to talk about today as being related to EMS: teleological and deontological ethics. Teleologic ethics are concerned with consequences of actions. If an action has positive consequences, it was an ethical decision. When a choice we make has negative effects, we're acting immorally. Teleologic ethics are further divided into a whole bunch of subsets. We're concerned about 2 of them here: utilitarianism and eudaemonist ethics. Utilitarianism is easy. You've heard of the greatest good for the greatest number, right? How about Spock's quote in The Wrath of Khan?
Logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Spock's talking about utilitarianism. Eudaemonism, on the other hand, is concerned with how actions relate to classical virtues like justice, temperance, courage, and such. There's a limb of this that extends into medical principles. Autonomy, meaning people get to make their own decisions. Beneficence, do good or help people. Justice, spread the good you're doing evenly throughout society. And non-malfeasance, don't do bad things to people. Those are the 4 main pillars of ethical medicine, so let me say those again. Autonomy, people get to make their own decisions. Beneficence, do good or help people. Justice, spread the good evenly throughout society. And non-malfeasance, don't do bad things to people. So all of that is teleologic ethics, concerned about outcomes. On the other hand, deontologic ethics are concerned with rules, completely separate from the decision's outcomes. When confronted with a situation, select the appropriate rule and follow it. If the rule was selected and applied appropriately, we're acting ethically. If a rule was ignored, we're immoral. Breaking laws is immoral, no matter how dumb a law is. Legal systems are set up on deontological principles. If a law is broken, you get prosecuted. Many religious ethical frameworks are deontological in nature as well. One doesn't eat meat on Fridays, not because of the consequences, but because there's a rule about that. Protocols are kind of deontologic decision-making tools as well. By the way, there's a 3rd main branch of ethics, virtue-based ethics. This branch is more concerned with who the decision maker is as a person, as well as the development of good moral character. Think of the elimination of vices. It doesn't really help you decide whether or not to pronounce or work a dead old man, so I'm not going to worry about that here. Go back to the scenario. Dead guy, DNR, family's begging you to ignore the DNR. Deontologic ethics would advocate pronouncement. The valid DNR was presented to you. Teleologic ethics is more complicated. Consider whether the patient will walk out of the hospital. We should probably also consider the fact that death is kind of irreversible. Utilitarianism says to work him, make a bunch of his family members happy, even if it's not his choice and would make him unhappy. But on the other utilitarianist side of the coin, think of the cost of the ICU. Eudaemonist ethics are more messy. Balance autonomy, the patient did indeed file a DNR, with beneficence, we want to do good. It's kind of a big damn mess, right? Especially if you think about teleology or the outcomes too much. Hospitals have ethics committees to assist providers with making decisions like this. An ethics committee can't help you in the field quickly, however. I think that's why most EMS providers lean towards the deontologic or rules-based ethical framework. especially in this case. I think the pronouncement is the way to go. Let me be clear, pronouncement's the way to go. There's a certain comfort in being able to wrap yourself in the security of a clear rule. Even without the rule, however, people are allowed to get DNRs without their family members' input. The patient may not want to put that burden onto them. The patient may not believe they will make the correct choice. The patient may not believe that they'll agree with their personal choice. The patient doesn't need to explain it to anyone except for the physician that drew up the advance directives. Pronouncement is the only choice as far as I see it. Deontologic ethics bother me to no end, though. As I've explained before, I hate if-then situations. If chest pain, then oxygen. If drunk, then transport. I hate to abdicate decision-making responsibility, including if DNR, then pronounce. But most rules are actually decision-making shortcuts, which I'm down with. Someone smarter than me, probably an entire committee of smart people, has weighed the patient's ability to make a decision about their future medical care against the family's wishes and come down on the side of the DNR. I'm sure it required extensive discussions. The good news is that I don't have to have extensive discussions. I can pronounce the patient without weighing the odds of every potential outcome. Deontologic ethics and the dependent decision-making process doesn't revolve around blind submission to authority. It's dependent on selecting the correct rule to follow. Should you be on the chest pain protocol or the dyspnea protocol? Is this situation what a certain protocol was written to cover, or should I go to another? So I can intellectually work out that rule-based decisions aren't actually all that bad. I'm not abdicating responsibility and authority. Knowing that still doesn't make the if-then statement any easier to swallow for me, but it is what it is. Here's another scenario. You're an EMS supervisor. EMT Jones has just called in sick for the 7th time this year. Your agency allows for 6 sick calls per year. Discipline is thus mandated. EMT Jones, though, has already worked her way through stepwise discipline and will be fired for this sick call. You're aware, though, that EMT Jones's sick calls are due to her son being diagnosed with leukemia. Do you fire her, or do you let this sick call slide? The deontologic answer is to fire EMT Jones. A line was crossed, and so a consequence must occur. That's how rule-based ethics works. Teleologic ethics work in decisions about your estimate of Jones's future potential as an employee, her ability to continue medical insurance after being fired, the severity of the previous disciplinary steps, and whatever else you think would go into that decision. What's the best answer? If you fire Jones, you're clearly an asshole. If you don't fire her, you're playing favorites and could get sued by the next person you do fire. You may as well throw out the policy manual. Don't you hate it when there's no answer that feels right? I could go on like this for a while. The point is that neither deontologic nor teleologic frameworks will work 100% of the time. It's a mistake to only rely on one or the other. Try your best to do what's right and be able to defend your decision. You may have been wrong, especially in hindsight, but it'll feel better explaining a decision in which you were trying to do the best thing for everyone involved. Let me leave this with a reminder of one of the wisest things I've ever been told. Do what you'd be proud to defend. Let me know what you think, especially if you disagree. One of the most helpful things you can do is to share this content with someone. Click here for another video, or click over on this side for the channel page and all videos. Subscribe is below this video somewhere. I'm Angry Bill, and until next time, stay safe.